Well, good afternoon, everybody. Hope everybody's having a very nice day today. A little gloomy out there, but hopefully everybody's been able to work through the heat wave, right? So, this is apparently an anticipated meeting based on the viewership we have here. So, it is your annual budget presentation meeting. So, without further ado, I know for many of you this will be the first time you're seeing a budget presentation. For those of you that live in Lake Terrace, primarily, but for anybody else that have moved in since the budget meeting. So the agenda for today is really to help us understand and review how the budget came to be. We're going to review the occupancy and revenue, as well as the expenses and really impacts within the budget that all took into consideration the services and wants and needs of yourselves, of the directors, and ultimately approved by the board of director, and then the monthly fee increase as well. Yeah, so, of course, there are questions, and if you have questions throughout, you're welcome to raise your hand. The other piece, this is going to be recorded, as well as the budget presentation will be available to you in copy format if you'd like. Just please see one of the four fine people over on the left side of the auditorium here in Maureen, Teresa, Jenna, or Lindsay, and one of the four will be able to get you a copy of the presentation. I would bet on going to Maureen. All right. Budget process. So this slide may be familiar to many of you. So again, how is the budget developed, right? It's developed with our department directors, and so that's the leaders of the organization. Those are the leaders of the operation. So they work consistently and throughout the year with all of you from a resident standpoint, so committees and things of that nature, whether that's Majarka working with the Food and Beverage Committee, Eric with the Green Committee and Guard Committee, so on and so forth. Obviously, Lindsay and myself. Brad Sitzberger, our Director of Finance, leads the budget process and input. Brad's been doing this, I think this is his 18th year doing it, so very fortunate to have Brad at the helm to help guide the budget process for us. Then after that is completed, we send it on to LCS, our management company, and their financial services, as well as our 2.5 apartments occupied day in and day out. Now you may say, Tyler, how do you get a half of an apartment? Obviously there's averages in there. So roughly between 106 and 107 apartments each and every month that will be occupied. And that gives us an average census of 95.1%. Of those, we're projecting 32% will be occupied by two individuals. That's where you get that 32% second person monthly service fee. We're budgeting 13 sales and 13 closings next year. So that's what Anna and team have in front of them next year. Then for assisted living, we have an average of 16 out of really 17, since many of you know that the guest suite is located in our second floor, Bradford Terrace. So that is an assisted living suite that we do not carry as occupancy. So 16 out of the 17 apartments will be occupied in assisted living month over month. Memory support or memory care on our third floor will have 15 out of the 16 suites occupied. And then our health center. This is an area that we've seen a really strong improvement year over year, and continue to have that with Lindsay, our Associate Executive Director at the helm. We're going to budget 35 out of 40. And again, for many of you that have seen this presentation going back 5 years, that number was south of 30. So again, it just goes to show the credit and care that Lindsay's built with her team of the healthcare operations at East Castle Place. All that plays into the revenue makeup of the business of East Castle Place. So I know these numbers might be small, but we'll walk through them here. It's a pie chart. It's what is East Castle Place? How is the revenue derived? So $7.5 million will come from our independent living folks, you all, the monthly service fees that we get month over month from the 106.5 occupied apartments. $6.1 million will come from our 40-bed health center operation. $1.2 million will come from assisted living, and $1.6 million will come from our memory support for a total of $16.4 million of revenue that East Castle Place as a business anticipates to attain next year. Again, our fiscal year, I should have started, begins on October 1st, right? So this is October 1st through September 30th. So as you can see, over 50%, in the ballpark of 55 to 60% of the revenue is coming from our Bradford Terrace building or our healthcare operation, with the balance being made up of independent living. So year-to-year revenue, you'll see is pretty consistent, and it's a growth, which is what you like to see, right? It's stability for a community. It's why East Castle Place has been around for 140 years, and we plan to continue that for the next 140, although I don't plan to lead all 140 years of that. So 2025, you can see the trend up. 2023, 2024 is projected. So that middle bar is projected revenue. So again, 2023 year here, 2024 projected revenue here, 2025. A large piece of that revenue piece that you're gonna see in independent living pickup is a full year of your Lake Terrace neighbors. That's why we have that revenue pickup in independent living, because we have a full year of occupied homes in independent living. Assisted living, you're gonna see slightly up, memory support up. Health center, again, we are outperforming this year's budget, as well as we're outperforming what we have projected for next year. There's a number of factors that go into it. We want to make sure the Medicaid reimbursement, as well as Medicare reimbursement rates that come out in October, we may be slightly conservative in our projections there, but also just want to make sure that we continue to have the success that we have in the healthcare. So budget is slightly less than we're projecting from a revenue standpoint this year. So that's the revenue side, right? That's the revenue side. That's how we pay for our expenses. So before we jump into the nuts and bolts of expenses, I want to talk about the assumptions that we discussed amongst the director group based on your feedback throughout the year, as well as with our board of directors. So wages, and we'll get to a pie chart that shows this, but over 60% of expenses that our East Castle Place expenses are tied up in wages and labor. Makes sense, right? The number of services that you receive are from our incredible staff members. They are paid, right? So there's expenses that come to that. So a total FTE count of 136 FTEs. That's 5 more than what we budgeted last year. So 3 areas that are direct impact to you. We will be adding an additional maintenance technician to Eric's team. Why? The number of work orders and responses that you have put in, as well as want. If you remember last year, we did add a maintenance tech and a housekeeper for the addition of the Lake Terrace residents. Now, throughout that year, Eric, again, has fine-tuned his staff, very, very strong staff, but just not enough bodies for the number of work requests that are coming in from you all. So we're adding that maintenance tech to improve responsiveness to your work orders, as well as to strengthen Eric's team. Then we're adding 2 more food and beverage staff members, and I think that's a consistent want that I've heard throughout the year. Again, we're budgeting for that. We need to find them and retain them. That's on us as operators. But we know that the number of residents that are now dining and enjoying that fine dining experience in the dining room each and every night or for lunch has grown considerably from last budget year. So we're adding staff to additional cook as well as additional server. And then we're adding an RN nurse educator for our health center, something we've never had before. So again, this is a position that in discussion with Lindsay and Ashley Drummond, our director of nursing, we need somebody that can continue to execute on both the regulatory expectations of our healthcare team, meaning our health center, our skilled nursing, memory support, as well as assisted living, but somebody that can dedicate themselves to onboarding CNAs, that can onboard themselves to that management team to really strengthen the already great quality care we're providing. So again, 5 additional staff members are being added with this budget. The 5th, by the way, is based on the occupancy growth in the health center. So that's why we have that 5th essentially additional. So it's additional CNA that's kind of moved in there to support the overall health center budget. or I'm sorry, health center occupancy. The other big driver was market rate adjustments for wages. Again, we know the expectations that you have and should have, right? You should have the best staff members to take care of you, right? In order to do that, there is a wage component. There is some other soft benefit components that we budget, meaning the parties and different ways we show appreciation for the staff. But at the end of the day, in order to attract and retain top talent, we need to make sure that we are competitive in the marketplace, whether that's in our dining room, our nurses, our maintenance staff, so on and so forth. So we again saw not as dramatic as 2022 into 2023 shift changes or market wage adjustments, but we did see a need in departments to do a market rate adjustments that will be happening in 10-1. So we continue to see some pressure on the labor market. Is it going to stop? When is it going to stop? If you have that answer, let's talk right after this, because that's the one I've been looking for. So that's the labor, the wage expense piece. So now we have what we say non-wage. So this is what allows us to continue to make sure we have the building fully secure and functional, right? So general insurance, property rates go up 10%. So we have a large building. I have this conversation year over year. Our M3 partner in our broker, it's a very hard market. And so West Bend is a great insurance. Nobody's touching West Bend, but property insurance is a hard market, and they're projecting a 10% increase in our general in property and liability insurance. Food costs are up over 5%. Now that is a credit to your food and beverage team, because I think the quality of the food has improved immensely. You know, obviously since Chef Tim has been here, but over the course of the year, Chef Tim and the team have also gotten very strategic in how to limit food waste, which has allowed us to get better products as well as to minimize the true raw food utilization, because there's less waste. So that 5% is actually a really good number. If any of you have gone to the grocery store lately, you're probably experiencing more than that. Again, I was shocked when I put the pile of grapes on for my sons, and it rang up at $12.50 for grapes, for 2 pounds of grapes. I thought they were on sale. That's what I told my wife. She did not buy it. So anyways, food cost of 5% is actually pretty good. Utilities, again, that's, you know, keeping the lights on, electric, water, sewage. Brad, I'm missing one. Gas. Yep. All those aggregate up 11.72%. So again, we have become more efficient with the new chiller in Lake Terrace and different areas of opportunity that Eric's put in front of us to be more efficient, but we're still seeing an increase on utilities. Overall expenses in other areas was 6.28% compared to last year, right? So overall, total operating expenses for East Castle Place are budgeted to be $15.7 million. So the next graph I have is even worse than the first one, so I apologize, but it's a pie chart. And so it's really just showing what those big costs are. And you can see here, 65% of costs are wages, benefits, and taxes related to labor, right? We have a requirement from the federal government to pay taxes for employees and things of that nature. So 65% or $10.25 million is dedicated to our staff members. Staff members that take care of you and provide the services. Utilities and cables makes up $889,000 of annual expense. Food is about $715,000 of annual expense. Again, that's campus-wide. That's just raw food. That does not account for the cost it takes to prepare that food. That budget number would be much, much higher. Again, labor is eating some of that up. Legal insurance, $395,000. Management fee for LCS is just over $1 million. Healthcare, and again, that's salaries as well. Health center ancillary, $715,000. Marketing is $285,000. Anna's done a really nice job in working with her team to really make that marketing number efficient. And then the rest of the pie is all the ancillary services throughout, and that makes up about $1.4 million. Or the final 10%. Yes?
Property taxes. How is East Castle taxed for property?
we are not taxed for property.
Excellent.
We are a not-for-profit entity, so we do not pay property taxes.
Okay.
We still have to pay the likes of SUDA, FICA, all those employee-related taxes.
Right.
Unfortunately, the not-for-profit status does not get you out of that pie of the federal government. But property, we do not pay.
Okay.
But we do pay property insurance in the event that something catastrophic would happen, which is where that 10% comes from.
Right.
So now, yes?
Just, could we go back to that, there? All of the employee costs are in that slice, all of these other costs are non-personnel?
Correct.
In other words, marketing is not salaries, it's other than.
Correct. That's our marketing firm, that's the collateral, that's other things, our website, things of that nature.
And what is the average increase, planned increase for staff overall?
So the average, aggregate besides market adjustments is 3.5%. Industry average is 3%. So.
Thank you.
Yep. So now you can see how expenses are allocated. So again, Health Center has roughly 28% of that allocation. Again, this is taking into account, again, that total expense of 15.72. It's kind of just sliced a different way, right? So you have your Health Center, that's $4.4 million worth of that. You have your plant operations, which does include utilities and cable, of over $2 million. Dining services, again, that raw food cost of $700,000. In total, our dining costs are just under $2.5 million of cost per year for the campus. Environmental services, so our housekeeping staff, just under $1 million. Resident services, so that's Evan's team, community life, transportation, things of that nature, $883,000. Assisted living and memory support, a smaller piece of the pie. Again, those are smaller revenue sources as well, so it's pretty aggregate there. In $480,000 and $790,000 respectively, and then the G&A, which is really that administrative. That's where a lot of our office staff, marketing, finance, things of that nature. That's what we classify as those G&A expenses. Copy machines, postage, total phone, so on and so forth. So that's all in that G&A budget. Front desk receptionist, for instance. So this is how the operating budget then kind of pans out. Start with the revenue at the top line of independent living, health center, assisted, and memory. Combine all those revenues for $16.4 million. Operating expenses at $15.7 million for a net operating income of $687,000. So years past, on last year, for instance, we operated at a deficit. This year we're operating from a positive. Again, that just provides future stability for East Castle Place. Again, the 687 is not going into shareholders or anything like that a for-profit entity would have. This is staying at East Castle Place in the East Castle bucket so that we have future financial viability and stability going forward. It also does help provide and cover capital expenditures for the campus. So speaking of capital expenditures, yes, Mr. Hoffman.
Do we have any income from fundraising?
So the question is about income from fundraising. Yes, we do. However, that's what we classify as below the line. So this is all above the line net operating income. The below the line includes our investment income, our fundraising income, as well as the costs associated with that fundraising is below the line. So we have roughly $120,000 of donations or fundraising budgeted for next year that Mike Brever is going to try to attain. Yes, Susan.
Where is the interest on the income generated from our buy-in? Where does that show on there?
That is also a below the line item. So that's going to be in our interest income, and I may have to lean on Brad here. That is accounted for, again, as part of the entire financial picture, because part of that below the line is also paying the long-term debt, as well as the debt of the campus. as well as depreciation expense, and things of that nature. So the interest expense, or I'm sorry, the interest, yeah, I guess it'd be expense, but Brad, can you help clarify?
Yeah, if we have dividend and interest income budget of 450,000, our interest expense is over $1 million, and also depreciation on its own is over 3 million. So, but that doesn't count. Doesn't take into effect the cash flow. We are budgeting a positive cash flow for the year.
So to those you didn't hear that, Brad, correct me if I'm wrong. So we're budgeting about 450,000 in dividends or in interest revenue.
Yeah.
However, we have over 1 million
In interest
in
expense.
interest expense,
Right.
as well as over 3 million
In depreciation.
in depreciation expense. So again, that's going to fall below the line. So again, everything I'm speaking to in this budget presentation is what you directly impact, that directly affects you and how we account for East Castle Place. The balance sheet is not reflected in this presentation. Does that help? Okay. If not, we can talk further. And a piece of this is, again, it is a very complex accounting, not only that we're not for profit, but there's what we call below the line, there's investments, there's depreciation, there's total long-term debt. All of that is accounted for in this budget process, but essentially your impact in your monthly service fees impact everything that is above the line. So we also, yes, Judy?
Was your 1 million in expense, interest, or whatever that was?
Interest
Is that
expense?
paying the broker, or?
No, so what is interest? So the question is, how do we get the 1 million in interest expense? So we essentially have bonds, right, that we have an interest rate on. On those bonds, that's the interest expense. So just like when you go out for your car loan, right, it's obviously not this simple. I'll use very simple terms because I'm a very simple individual. If you go out and get a car loan for $1,000 and you pay 5% on that loan, right, annually, that's essentially the interest expense that East Castle Place is carrying next year on the debt, on the bonds for the community.
And what was the 3 million?
3 million is the
Depreciation.
depreciation of the campus, yeah,
Of the fixed assets.
of the fixed assets. So going on to capital expenditures, so these are just some highlights. Our capital budget is over $1.2 million that was approved for the campus. This is the healthiest capital budget we've ever had. And so a few highlights that we've included in the capital budget are new Wi-Fi access points as well as new switches. This will improve the overall internet speed and bandwidth for the entire campus. We have new sidewalk and asphalt repairs. The Circle Drive as well as the Lake Terrace Drive are being repaired. Historic roof, if you remember, we had that budgeted last year. We pushed that to this year. We're also including the Lake Terrace vestibule roof. For those of you that live in Lake Terrace, you've seen some water damage. We're including that as well. Eric actually has that scheduled for early October, so we'll be sending out some notices. A pool chemical mixer, this will make us more efficient in a pool standpoint, hopefully minimizing the downtime of the pool for that, and then a new Bradford Terrace garage door or doors. So again, there's other items within this 1.2 million. These are the most, what I felt were impactful. I'll share with you in the kitchen, for instance, we have a new mixer, that's over $1,000, we're capitalizing that. We have some replacement equipment. We have items of flooring and things that will be replaced. We have in the health center, we are purchasing some new furniture and things of that nature for the common areas. So again, a number of things are going into the capital budget that the board of directors approved. These are probably the highlight and most impactful. The sidewalk and asphalt repairs, we have over $400,000 of work budgeted for that. So this is just a historic East Castle monthly fee increases. So dating back to 2021, the middle section here is the ECP independent living increase. And then we have the senior housing averages. And I pulled these from NIC, or the National Investment Center for Senior Housing and Care, as well as LCS company data. So LCS owns and operates over 140 communities nationwide. I was able to pull their numbers as well for what they're seeing nationally. So 2021, we introduced a 3% fee increase. The average was 3.65. 2022 was 3%. The average is 5.35%. 2023, if we remember that year, that was quite the year. We had to issue a 7.5% fee increase. Elsewhere, we're doing north of 9, 11. I saw some go 15. I saw some do a 6%, and then halfway through the year issue another 6% increase. Again, these are all one-time increases. The board of directors has never wavered from that, and they're not going to. 2024 was a 6%. The average was 7 to 9%. And this year, the senior housing average and what they're anticipating is a 5 to 8% increase across senior living. So, with that being said,
Tyler?
yes, Susan.
So, my understanding for those of us in Lake Terrace who put money down on residences in 2023, but moved in 2024, we were initially brought in under the 2023 agreement, the rent. So what happens this year?
So your monthly service fee, sure, the question is, and I have to look back in my numbers, is that the Lake Terrace residents that moved in 2024,
But put the money
or
down in
20,
23.
put money down in 2023, we're paying 2023 prices.
Right.
This is where it gets tricky, because technically I'm talking about 2025, because we're in a fiscal year that starts in 2024 and goes to 2025. So your fee increase will be November 1st of 2024, just like everybody else.
Okay.
And it'll be your current rate plus whatever the number is I share with you on the next slide. So, I don't want to build anything more up, but so again, November 1st. So you contractually, we as East Castle Place have a 60-day obligation to share with you your monthly service fee increase in everybody's contract. You will receive that formal notice tomorrow morning. The letters will be placed in your in-house mailbox, unless you have a different venue you'd like to share, but Maureen will be placing those along with the optional services listing. So we'll talk optional services after my next big slide. So for 2024, beginning November 1st, 2024, your monthly service fee will be an increase of 5%. So, looking at the number of services and wants, needs, and continued experience, I think that you all want and deserve. Again, investing in our staff was the primary objective throughout this budget process, and you saw that in the 65% of the total expense budget that was approved by the board of directors is going into that direct care and staff, is what the board of directors have approved. So, beginning on November 1st, you will see that 5% increase on your monthly service fee. Brad will have the monthly service fees, right? We give those to the residents for each home.
Every style is listed.
Every style is listed, so we can walk through that if you have questions. But essentially, you can take your last month's bill, add 5%, and you'll be set. 5% in assisted living as well as memory support, and then the rate in health centers is $545 a day. So the question that Evelyn has is optional services. So what the board of directors, as well as in consultation with Brad, is we kept all optional service fees flat. So there is no increase on your parking. There is no increase on the guest suite. However, if you do lose your pendant and you've been given your first pendant, pendants are more than $200, so we had to increase that slightly to $225. However, if your pendant dies or for some reason stops working, that is not a cost to you. You talk to Teresa and she will replace that pendant. It is only in the event that you have lost your pendant, and maybe not the first time you've lost your pendant. So, again, pendants are very important, but there is a pretty substantial cost to those. And we do budget for them, but primarily for new residents. So again, that's the only change. And then therapy charges, just based on therapy rates and schedules, did go up 5%. That is only if you are paying privately. If you are underneath your Medicare Part B benefit or your other insurance benefit, that rate schedule is going to be covered as contracted. So there's no concern there. This is only if you have therapy privately. And again, that's just part of the cost of essentially their labor. So again, that is where you will see that sheet as well. And you'll see that your underground parking fee, if you park there, remains at $75. The guest room, which is getting rehashed or repurposed a little bit here in the upcoming months, will also remain at $125. So, with that, concludes the budget presentation for 2025. Again, the budget presentation is available for your review. I'm happy to sit down and walk through that with you. The formal letters will be distributed tomorrow, along with those rate sheets in your in-house mailboxes. And then effective November 1st, your monthly service fee will be reflected in that 5% adjustment. So, with that, are there any questions? Yes, Paul.
What's the amount of bonded debt?
Total bonded debt,
29.
29 million. And that was refinanced with the construction debt that we did back in 2022.
Yeah, we have favorable rates. We have on 19 million, we have 3.55%, which is a great rate. The other 10 million is a 2.79%. So
And those are
compared
fixed.
to existing interest rates, it's a very low interest rate for expense.
So we refinanced at a very good point. Again, continuing to make sure that East Castle Place is in a very strong financial position. I think that's part of the security of, that 90% that you did give to us, or 100% rather, that 90% you expect to return to your trust, to your family, so on and so forth. It will be, and I think that is the continued message here, and continued diligence of both your board of directors as well as us from an operations standpoint to protect that. And I think you can all know that it is, well positioned. So, yes.
So you're going to increase the amount of money taken out of my bank automatically?
Good question. The question is, are you going to automatically take more money out of my bank account come 11/1, adjusting for that 5%? Brad? For those of you that have had it previously, is it a yes?
Yes, so the bills that come out in November, like the first week and second week of November, they will have the new monthly service fee for the rest of November, and then when we pull it automatically towards the end of November, it will be the new amount taken from your bank if you're signed up for the automatic withdrawal.
So, just to reiterate, you will, for those of you that are on automatic withdrawal, and again, it's if you would like to do that, let us know, we can help. The bill will still be sent as normal. You will see a higher rate November 1st than you did October 1st. If you have questions about that, come find me, come find Brad, we can discuss that. And then that amount will be taken, usually between what, Brad, is
Around the 25th.
the 25th. So you have between the 1st and the 25th to make sure that you're comfortable with everything and make sure that the funds are there and things of that nature. We are not going to require you to fill out a new ACH form. That seems a little prohibitive. But we do want you to ask the questions if you have them. If something's like, hey, this feels like 15%, what happened? Brad added a 1. No, I'm just kidding, Brad would never do that. It's, you know, that's the time for questions. You know, again, I want to make sure you, yes?
So
Carol?
you're saying that I don't need to do anything to notify the bank that they need to give you more money?
No, as long as the money is there. We'll figure it out. That I think is the only, no.
If they signed up with us for the ACH form, the
Mhm.
automatic withdrawal form,
Yep,
you know, we're the ones who pull it.
yeah,
Actually, I personally do it.
yeah.
So.
So again, Brad pulls that, accounts for that, reconciles that every single month. There's nothing that you have to do to notify your bank, just know that the additional 5% will be coming out. So if you have a budget that's very, very tight, you might just want to take a relook at that prior to 11/1, just to make sure. And again, if something were to happen, we'll definitely be working with you. So, does that help? Okay. Mr. Council.
Have the fees ever gone down?
I don't know if I have to repeat that one. No, the question is, did the fees ever gone down? In my time since 2017 is all I can speak to, and Brad can speak to past that. I do not believe fees have ever gone down. We work to make sure that we work as effectively and efficiently to make sure that we're setting ourselves up for success and making sure we have the funds to pay the staff members to keep, you know, the lights on and to continue to improve the facilities and amenities and services that you experience. Generally, that would include an increase. So again, in my time, there has never been a decrease. It may be cause for concern if there is a decrease, because most likely it means we're taking something out of the service line. Again, it would be you know, something pretty dramatic if we were to ever decrease that, but you would definitely feel that from a service, amenity, so on and so forth. So I don't anticipate that we would decrease monthly fee increases. I do anticipate that we keep them in this, you know, ballpark of, you know, 3.5% to 6.5%. Again, I cannot be held to that because again, you cannot account for a year like 2023. Again, that was the economics of the world around us at the time, and that's always going to impact any business and operation. So, yes, Lynn.
Brad, I thought they went down 1 year parking and went back up the next year.
Oh, parking?
Parking?
I think, yeah,
It did go down.
I think it did, parking did, but not the monthly fees, no.
The monthly fees,
Yeah.
So maybe an ancillary service
Yeah.
went down,
Yeah.
that definitely could happen, Liv,
That-
and I won't take that out of the question, you know. Again, we kept everything flat this year. We did not decrease anything, but we did keep it flat. Yes?
Just a clarification, when you make a payment on the 21st of November, you are paying for November,
Correct,
not December, you're paying for November.
correct.
Correct. The question is kind of when the payments are processed and hit. So when you get that November bill, November 1st, and it's taking out November 20th or 21st or 22nd, whatever it may be, you are paying for that month. You are not paying for the month in advance of December. Other questions? Okay, well, just one announcement. Based on the budget approval, and based on contractors, you're gonna be getting a notice that the Circle Drive, is going to be completely redone, beginning September 9th. So, the Circle Drive, which includes the sidewalk, includes all of the asphalt as well as the concrete around the circle, is going to be redone by our partner that helped with the Bradford Terrace parking lot. What that means for us, that entrance is going to be shut down for 2 to 3 weeks because again they're taking it down to the drainage. Because I'm sure many of you have seen the large dip. So Eric was able to have a contractor do the work and then you know, pay for it upon completion, which will be in October essentially. So We are already moving forward with one of the larger capital expenses for 2025 technically. And that'll be done prior to winter, which I think is gonna be really nice, both for our equipment as well as for all of us. But that will impact that front entrance. We're gonna be working with the emergency departments as well to notify them. I'm letting you know, it takes 4 to 5 parking spots out of commission for that 3 weeks, and also that front entrance. So if you have guests, visitors, things of that nature, Bradford Terrace is going to be your only entrance and parking lot that will be available to you. Obviously, Lake Terrace folks still have access to Lake Terrace. It's gonna be less impactful than when we tried painting, the stripes, which would be nice, but it will impact that circle drive for roughly 3 weeks is what we are planning. If we can beat that timeline, we will, but that'll be beginning September 9th. So more to come on there. I'll send out a memo with a map, but I figured let's get through the holiday, and I'll send out a memo right away on Tuesday or Wednesday of next week reminding us all of that. So parking spots are probably gonna go offline on Friday prior to that, the 9th. So over the weekend, if there's a neighbor that apparently is parking there that isn't a resident or staff member, can get notice to get their car off the parking lot. So just an announcement there. Again, formal notice and memo will be provided to you next week to look at that impact. So, all right. With that, thank you so much for your attendance. If you have any questions, I'll be sticking around. If you need the presentation, let me know. Let Maureen know. We'll be happy to provide that to you. And again, if you have family members that also are interested or have questions, by all means, feel free to forward them my contact. Yes?
When will this be replayed on TV?
So, Evan, I think is going to send out the link.
It will be available on demand through YouTube. We'll send out the link.
Great, thank you.
So the question is, when is this going to be available on channel 955? We're kind of revamping the program, but basically it'll be on demand. Evan will send out the YouTube link, and then you can click it at your leisure, rather than trying to catch it at a time that Evan puts on the TV, and then you're at one of Willie's classes or a doctor's appointment, and then it's missed again. So trying to do things more on demand, which I think is a great idea. So, anything else? All right. If not, thank you so much. Have a wonderful rest of your afternoon.